This is the 415ers podcast brought to you by the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network with 95.7 The Game. That is Marc Grandi. I'm Evan Giddings. Please download the Odyssey app and download, rate, subscribe to the 415ers podcast wherever you get your podcast from. 5 stars are appreciated. Well, of course, the other part of the news and the updates from Kyle Shanahan were about his impending, it seems, quarterback one, which is Brock Purdy. And when asked about it as far as an update, here's what Kyle Shanahan, in only Kyle Shanahan fashion, had to say about it.
Only God knows, and it's all estimates, so it depends what quote people have got from me, but we're hoping for week one, and I feel pretty optimistic about that. That's what we're hoping for. He'll be ready to play in week one, and usually that doesn't mean that's the day he comes back. Usually you got to come before that to make that goal, and that's kind of the goal we're hoping for, and don't have any reason to think differently.
Okay, well, the first part, only God knows. I think that's a Kid Rock lyric. Now, I know that Kyle Shanahan, like what he named his son after Lil Wayne, and he's a big fan of music, and I don't know. It seems to like I don't know. Those cliches tend to like infiltrate his lexicon to the point where it's hard after whatever you say to kind of not look at you with a huh. And look, there was a lot of good stuff what he said. He's hopeful that Brock Purdy's gonna be back for week one, and he feels optimistic about it. And they're kind of expecting it. It would seem as of now, but only God knows is right up there with. I don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow. Yeah. Quote from Kyle Shanahan.
100%. The funniest thing, I don't know if you've picked this up from Kyle Shanahan, but he has this really weird, like half laugh giggle, but it's extended. I'll play it again. It's right after the only God knows, and then he just. I'll just play it just really quickly.
Only God knows, and that's all.
And I don't know what it is, but it's just a habit he has.
It feels like the kind of chortle that if you let it keep rolling, it would eventually turn into the Kawhi Leonard laugh.
It does.
Like if he kept it going, just because it seems so forced and so unnatural that it just I don't know. If you rolled that laugh down a hill and it gained some steam, it would turn into Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. I don't think I have ever heard Kyle Shanahan bring up God when talking to the media before. Like he's 100%.
He is a Longhorn, Mark. A lot of God down in Texas.
I mean, he's 100% like poking fun at the question, right? I mean, that's what the laugh suggests. That's what him saying. I don't know. It kind of seems like it to me. Obviously, they want him back, but I mean, I feel like in his mind, it's like, of course, I know I'm going to be asked this. There's no way I could possibly give them the answer that they want, whether it's good or bad. We just simply don't know at this point. Hell, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with them and get a little chuckle out as well. I don't know. There's no way that he can answer this question in the way that the media wants. So I don't know. I feel like he's just trying to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and by the way, Lord knows would be Meek Mill. So there's a slight difference there between God knows and Lord knows. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Mark. It does feel like Lynch and Shanahan, whether they're in lockstep for a reason or because they legitimately believe it, but it does appear that Brock Purdy is, looking like he'll be ready to go for week one. And I think Brock Purdy is also on the same timeline. I mean, there's been no setbacks, so to speak. But the part at the end that Kyle Shanahan mentioned about, okay, we think he's going to be ready to go for week one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be ready to play. It kind of sounded like, and as far as the quote is concerned for Shanahan, it did feel like he was giving himself out a little bit, and of course he's very good at that. But I did hear some hesitation on the back end as far as he'll be ready for week one, but we don't know if he'll actually be game ready for week one.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the whole conversation around his recovery process. There's like a bunch of different steps. 3 months out, he can start throwing, right? And we're approaching 3 months now. We're about 2.5 months after the surgery. So theoretically, he should be getting close. And based on what the 49ers have told us, it seems like he may be ahead of the game. I know he's been throwing like with towels, not with an actual football, but with a towel, just trying to get the motion down and to work out the elbow just a little bit. I don't want to speculate on if that means he's going to play week 1 or not. But it does seem like, at least what the 49ers are telling us, is that he's a little bit ahead. But again, there's all these different like check marks in this recovery where it's all right, he can throw with the towel. Now he can throw with the football, but don't anyone, rush him. Don't anyone touch him. He's not going to be in there doing team activities at that point. He'll be throwing off to the side, kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo all off season before the 49ers eventually brought him back and made him their backup quarterback. He's going to be away from the team, but he can throw after 3 months. And then as you get closer to 6 months, then he's ready to go and ready for team activities. So my whole my brain, my mind is kind of trying to make sense of how different people are saying ready. Like when they say he's ready, does that mean he's game ready and he can immediately be thrown back into the fire in an NFL game and, have 350-pound defensive linemen running at him, trying to tackle him, trying to get any part of their arms on Brock Purdy's arm and potentially force another elbow injury? Is that what they mean by ready? Or by ready, do they just simply mean he can start throwing a football again? Like there's a lot of different ways I think that people are talking about this, and it's just the nature of the injury, and we're really not going to know until we finally see him out there, which I think is why the main reason why me, at least, I'm a little hesitant about this whole week 1 thing for Brock Purdy, because there's so many different levels to readiness with this injury. It seems like there's the ready in terms of, all right, Brock's healed. Now it's time to get back up to speed. But how long does it take to get up to speed and be ready for an actual football game? Again, that's why I am hesitant about this whole thing, because I'm not sure what people are really saying when they say, yeah, he'll be ready by X date. I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, and to clarify, Shanahan is saying if he'd be ready to play in week 1, that usually means it usually doesn't mean that's the day he comes back. So you have to be, of course, back
Yeah.
and ready before. And I know that Brock Purdy looked really good, and I'm sure still has an elite level of knowledge when it comes to the playbook, and obviously has great chemistry with his teammates. But there's going to be a physical ramp up that he needs to go through just to get in game shape, not just throwing shape, but being ready to play the position. And that's physically demanding. So I'm kind of with you. Look, if he's back week 1, I would feel great. But it doesn't necessarily change my outlook on the entire season unless, of course, he misses substantial time, which is my biggest takeaway from Shanahan feeling optimistic and Brock Purdy saying that his goal is to be ready for week 1. Not that he'll be ready, Pittsburgh Steelers on the road,
Yeah.
week 1 of the NFL season, but that he's going to be ready shortly thereafter. And it doesn't look like he's going to be on that back end of the timeline that was, potentially there for 6 to 8 months to 10 months. We don't know. It looks like it actually is going to be very soon. And so he might miss at the most a month.
Yeah, and here is Brock Purdy when asked earlier this week if he expects to be ready for week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, I feel good. Arm is feeling good. To say I'm going to be ready by this time or this time, I just, we're not trying to label any kind of timeline like that. For sure, though, that's a goal, right? You want to be ready for, the season, and if that's the case, great. But like I said, we're just taking it one day at a time and don't want to say anything that we regret down the road or whatever.
All right, good answer there from Brock Purdy. I mean, what, under
He also
promise,
mentioned God a couple times.
under promise, over deliver is what Brock Purdy is trying to do there. They're not going to say that, yeah, he'll be ready for week 1, and then when invariably he's not, then all of a sudden the 49ers have some chaos on their hands. I will say, despite my hesitation to think or to say that he'll play week 1 in Pittsburgh, it is, I think, in general, good news the way they're talking about this, Evan, because it doesn't seem like up to this point there's been any complication with the surgery, and I know we're more than 2 months out now. It's kind of a ways out to be, thinking about if something happened bad with the surgery, but there also hasn't been any setback, and they're still talking about how week 1 is a goal. And you and I remember when the surgery was delayed. we were both ready to say, well, unless he's superhuman and recovers at an incredible pace, week 1 seems highly unlikely. So the fact that at this point, they're still talking about week 1 as even a possibility, and Kyle Shanahan said earlier this month he's hoping to have him back by training camp. The fact that they're even comfortable saying that as a goal, I think is good news, Evan. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be back for week 1, but say that they were still the most likely outcome was Brock Purdy, first game, week 4. He misses the first 3 weeks, and that was in their mind as the most likely outcome. They would not be coming out here saying, yeah, we hope the goal, the plan, whatever is week 1. It might not be week 1, but the fact they're even referencing week 1 as a potential time that he returns, I think is good news and signals that at the most, perhaps he misses 1 or 2 games.